Get access to exclusive videos never released to the YouTube public by joining Patreon or becoming a channel member.
Hey guys, what's going on? So, it's a little hot still, but it's about as cool as it's going to get, so I'll be able to shoot this video here. Wanted to show you some of the gaps and holes that I missed from the last video that, you know, I don't want these questions unanswered for X amount of videos later. Do a follow-up to the turf video and show you the router bits I use, the router I use, explain to you what I did and why I did it, show you some different things, some different ways to route, some colors. The bigger part of this video is to show you how I attached the hatches to the hinges. So I really need your help on this question. Seriously, I posted a community post asking what my next truck should be, which should be a 2009 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD with a Duramax diesel Allison transmission, or a 2018 Titan XD, because I really like my Titan, but it's a gas Titan. It's not a diesel. And there's a 2018. I essentially could get into a 2018 Titan XD, like their Platinum Reserve model, which is really freaking sweet looking, with a warranty, same year as my truck, honestly, for about the same price. So I don't know what's going on with the truck market, but now is like a weird time where my truck actually has equity and I could trade it in. But the bigger thing is I'm having issues trying to get that 2009 financed because it's so old and most of these banks won't touch it. And so that's led me to like 3 other trucks I was looking at, or mainly 2 that I really like. And there's these Ford Super Duty. One's an F350, and then one is a F250, but it's brand new with a full warranty and it's like loaded. Man, they're both pretty sweet. They're also both really expensive. So that would have to, my financial situation would have to be rerouted a little bit to afford the other 2. I was really hoping to get that 2009 Duramax because I would have been out with it for not much more than I pay for my current truck. I really need these to tow a toy hauler, a small one. I want a small one so I can put a boat in it, and I want to tow a boat, not ATCs or side-by-sides or whatever. I just, I just want to tow a boat in it. And so this left me with a few options, but mainly I have to upgrade my truck. I'm going to get rid of my Titan here and get a real truck that's a diesel that can tow. So just let me know what you guys think. I need like some feedback, because I think you guys' feedback is invaluable. I asked for like a community post about this, and you guys gave me pretty good valuable feedback and also voted heavily in favor of the Chevy. So I'm probably not going to get the Titan, but I probably won't be able to get the Chevy. So I need your help on the next 3. I'll probably post a community deal on that one too. So we'll see. I'll give you an overlay on them. Before we go on that, I want to show you this. This is our trolling motor brackets. We make these in 2 sizes. This is like the slightly fatter one for a more beefier and bigger trolling motor. And we have the bracket here. The thing about these is, for one, we give you a little extension so you can put them up as far or as close or angle them, and you can just trim and cut that off with fairly like a chop saw or a skill saw. And then right here we have that, so where it lines up, and you can adjust these. You can adjust these at levels. You want it up a little bit because your boat leans. You want it down a little bit because your boat, is back more. You just want it straight because, you're happy with it being straight. You can level these up and you just get your own stainless hardware and you tighten them in. And if you really want to lock it in once it's there so it never ever shifts, you just drill another hole, put another bolt, and that's it for that. But it's adjustable, so it's pretty nice. And then we also have this thing, which is probably going to have to go in my boat when I revamp it for a 3rd time. So this is a big giant rod locker / gear stove, and it's got full bleed out tracks running down the entire thing, all the way down, and the water just comes down and bleeds out right out the bottom onto the subfloor and then out to the bilge. But the cooler thing is it has this big giant day box. It is a very nice, generous day box with full bleed outs here, and so I can stick a bunch of stuff in there, and that's going to probably be my primary little day box for my ski and fish build, because my boat's gonna have to turn into like a family boat. That's just what's gonna have to happen. So that's what we're running on. I just want to show you guys that, and that these things are available at our site along with a bunch of other aluminum mods for your boat. All right, so as far as bits go, this is one I wish I would have used, but I chickened out. But it's got that bevel, and I think it's short enough. Now, you gotta wonder, some of those CNC router bits are pretty similar to this, but maybe even skinnier with a point. Like, I would love to get my hands on some CNC router bits and see if they fit the same type of chuck for the router I have. But you look at these lines here, like that was made with a similar bit where it went down and then beveled out and cut through. And so that would be pretty cool to have. Maybe something that was a hybrid like that with not such a deep point and like a flat end like this that flanged out like that. That would be pretty dope. Or if you're skilled enough to run those two without screwing up the depth, you could probably get a pretty cool after effect, but you really just have to want that type of line. Me, I chickened out and took the cheap route and just used these. These are Bosch bits, and the other one I have, well, some of these are some Harbor Freight bits, but this is, no, that's not it. This is the thicker one. I mean, the one I use is a Bosch bit, which I've used them and they've never gave me problems. And I bought some X. This is like a spare Harbor Freight bit, but it's the same thickness. And I use that to do the real thick interior lines all throughout the boat. This was pretty good. And the ones I used to do the, you know, the measuring tool, the bump boards on the boat. I use a smaller one. The smaller one's pretty good for fine detail. And then I really kind of, if you really got to get in there, you're gonna need a Dremel. I would suggest a Dremel with a routing tool, a really, really high RPM Dremel, because it wants to pull, and then obviously what comes with that. So I got some pretty cool things out of using that, where obviously these were cut short, and then also using the soldering iron, which I don't know where that thing is, but I had a soldering iron and a battery powered Milwaukee one, and that one was dope. All those things together did pretty good, but you can get a soldering iron for like 10 bucks at Harbor Freight, and you can get all these bits, a pack for like $7.99 or $10.99, pretty good pack for like a whole thing, a series of this one, this one, this one, and obviously the only one you can't get is the little small one, but then all these other ones, which I don't even know, I wouldn't use that one. A lot of those are just really only good for wood. I wouldn't go too far out with something like that. You'll start grinding the aluminum. I was really worried about like the smaller bearings. I used these for the outside. Well, that's a Bosch one. That's the first one I ever used. And that got the outside pretty good without ever touching the aluminum. It just like was very, very good at only getting the foam. And I never actually messed it. And then I contacted some old lady on my, or just a lady, I don't know if she's old, but you know, she was on Facebook Marketplace. And I got this one, which has a fatter diameter. It gave me a thicker line around the edges. And I'm pretty grateful for that, because the thicker line does look better, although it's not terribly necessary. And then I obviously have a little backup one, just in case that Bosch ever takes a crap on me. So, pretty happy about this. Can't lie, can't complain. This is the router I used, and it's just a Dual XR brushless router. It's pretty dope little router. I don't like it for wood. It's a little too light for wood. Honestly, it'll jar real quick on you. I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm not using the right bits or whatever, but I mean, it doesn't jar on the foam sometimes if you're not careful, but really it was all I needed. Had a high enough RPM, did its job. I know you guys are a lot of DeWalt fans. Milwaukee makes one that's better though. Just putting that out there.
So now back into it. We have these hatches. These are the Gen X hatches. And I put these offset hinges. You remember we get the hinges where one side is about 2 to 3 times fatter than the other side. The short side is meant to stick out and attach to the actual hatches. We have 3/4 inch tubing in our kits and also 3/4 inch angle in our kits. And subsequently, we have a 3/4 inch by, I think it's 1.5 or 2 inches, fairly wide. So the 2 inch part sits inside the frame. It's T-framed in between each segment, and it's right now it's actually T-framed in between the actual bow seat and the frame. I forgot to stick ball strut hinges inside this hatch, so I drilled them out real tactfully without drilling completely through the turf, and I riveted those into the top. And then I also used stainless steel hardware. It was countersink hardware because the hatch is going to sit directly on top of those, and the strut is going to connect right to that ball joint. Right now, the point, it's pretty much science, but the distance will vary depending on the hatch. And we also had these white cap cantilever latches. Didn't get the locky ones this time. It was too good of a deal just to buy all these, and I was kind of over budget for this project. This project actually went way over budget, so all we're doing is just kind of putting them. I like these triple joint ones. I will leave the link for these in the description for my Amazon store. I like them because if you drill one hole, you can actually test where it's going to sit and be correct right. And if it's a little too short or a little too far away, you can just move it to each one of those hole spots, and then eventually it'll equal out. A trick you can use with the Gator Skins Knotskid and Soft Touch is if you get liquid tape and you just dab it on there with, you know, an appropriate thing, it dries to a, you know, a flat black finish just like that, and it kind of just forms right in. You can't even tell. I had a little issue lining up the first one, so this time I'm putting like painter's tape right at the end of the hatch. I have the hatch sitting right where I want it, and I'm putting painter's tape right at the ends so I can line it right on the hinge, and it won't give me any problems. And then once I've got that done, I'm just gonna go ahead and clamp it in place and have it set over, and I'm gonna drill and rivet it. I only put 2 rivets in because if for whatever reason I close it like this and then it's shifted somewhere or just too far away on the other side, then, you know, what are you gonna do? You only have so much space on that hinge to like recorrect. So I learned a little bit from when I tried to attach the first hinge, and so this one came out pretty good. I think the painter's tape is what actually made the difference in lining, whereas before I tried to line up with a marker and it shifted. I don't know what happened, but this is pretty good. This is perfect. This is what we want. And now we're just gonna go ahead and drill and rivet the rest of these. Really only about take 6 or 7 rivets to do this. The advantage with the JonYak tube frame is that it hides all the rivets. The turf hides the ones on top, and the tubing hides all of them on the bottom, right through the hinge, so you can't even tell. It just takes somebody who actually knows this hatch system to even tell. But in the JonYak system, obviously you can see the rivet heads. We painted them black, which dramatically fades the exterior look. In fact, it kind of adds to the cosmetic look that they're popping out in a black sequence. It's kind of weird. I like it. But you can also shave those down significantly. So long as you don't shave them down so far, you degrade the quality of the rivet. I mean, you get rid of the mandrel. Don't want to shave down the mandrel head. And we clear that off so we can lay this with some EVA foam. And then I layered the inside of this one with the black Tip Jet Sports snow cam, just like it did for the rest of the interior. All right, so the first one here is a full JonYak hatch. And each of those shocks are like the cheaper ones. They're not waterproof. They're the ones we got from Amazon that we've been using forever, which we don't have any dry hatch bleed out systems or diversion systems. So these will eventually rust. So I'll probably have to get some waterproof ones here along the line. So I'll have to find, I'll give you an update about that later. But this one opens up flawlessly. It was a little sluggish with just one, so we put 2. We added 2 here. Obviously these little bulges out here a little bit, kind of bulges. Not terribly happy about that, but it is what it is. It's not the biggest deal, but it's annoying. We don't have anything on here, although we could put just one. It would fit in this. But this one's so heavy. And I mean, we might actually do it later, but it means I'd have to do the same mod on this one that I did over there. I kind of don't want to do that, so. But this is really heavy, for one, because it's a full JonYak frame in conjunction with this pedestal and the 2 extra lids. So this is like the heaviest hatch we have, even though it's like one of the smallest hatches we have. It's kind of funny. But it's super necessary that it's like this because I'll be having a pedestal and be rocking back and forth. So this thing needed to be solid. Also, I wanted to show you how we attach them. Oh, I can't show you that way. Here, show them this way. These are how we attached them. We have just 6 across, and this is that 3/4 by 1.5 inch or almost 2 inch, differential hinge, where the big part of it is T-framed in between the hatches, in between the frame, and then enough of it's left out to just be enough clearance to cover for the hatch. Although I would have honestly knocked this up farther, because after putting, the door edge guard and then the turf being on there, it actually levels up a lot more. And so you really kind of want this hinge flush with the turf at least. That way when you open it up, it'll actually allow you to fold over it. Because if you don't do that, then what it'll do is this part will actually bind. Now, there's a big enough clearance here to where this doesn't bind. It doesn't matter because it's under strut power. But if you wanted your hatch to flip over and be okay without binding on the turf or binding the hinge and stretching it, your hinge would have to be at least flush or slightly higher than what your bottom line deck turf would be. And we're gonna actually have to do that with a hatch later with the main electrical panel. But this one is a full Gen 7 finished in a much bigger hatch. And right now that one's actually a bigger hatch with an even bigger piece of channel in the middle for support, and it's still lighter than that thing. So that should tell you something. And it looks fantastic with the door edge guard. Thanks to Nate giving me the tip. And this is also very stiff and strong. And I did not believe that they would be this strong when I went for JonYaks here and here. And if you see that, that kind of threw off the symmetry of the boat, where these are just wider. They have to be wider around the diversion lip. So they're just wider in general versus the core that just goes straight. This also was the DIY waterproof aluminum box that I made, which is honestly, it was really hard to bend that thing straight with a $50 Harbor Freight brake. And
it works, but you can tell, and it's right here. You can tell everything goes bad with this hatch shifting, but it's fine. It is whatever. It is mine, but everything else is pretty symmetrically sound with great symmetrical detail. I'm super happy about that. And I probably will either strut this with 200N, and it would be really good, but it really stands alone with just one without any real problems. So, but I have one rigged here just for another. I just got to put another one down here, which we use the same type, and just put them in here like this. Now, because to flush mount these, especially if you're having problems with it binding, you're gonna have to do that anyways, but we're not having any issues with it right now at the moment. Or we can obviously do that. This one is a full, this is what I was talking about. This is a 50N strut. So it's only 10 pounds of force, same size, only 10 pounds. And what comes with that is, this is just so light, and you honestly, for something this light, and even you just don't want all that pressure from 20 pound, it'll flex out the whole thing. So the 10 pound is just that perfect pressure. Perfect pressure. Might be a little too light for, say, this one, where we have to absolutely use a 20 pound or maybe 2. So the 10 pound little day box is great here. And so we have, you can put your little day stow there, your little bags, your little whatever, your worm bags, your anything in there, your cell phone stuff. I might actually have, I'm having ideas to run in cell phone wires and jacks to make charging stations for my GoPro batteries and other stuff that I constantly use in a film. I might make a little station in here, but right now just showing you as an example. I'll store like 12, 13 of these tackle trays. That's more than I really honestly generally need. And a lot of times I run the bigger ones because they hold swim baits. And this is just my terminal stow. So I have a life jacket in there. And then obviously mooring lines, anchors, all that kind of gear right in there. It's where I go. Might even some waterproof med boxes might go in there. Waterproof med box might even actually go in here. I mean, your fire extinguisher can go in there. So you have room for all these cool things. You might even actually stick a front bilge. I've been really wanting to stick a front bilge. Almost all my boats is really hard, but this boat, I think it's super necessary to stick a front bilge just because of the low displacement. In fact, the one big wave could just like ruin my life, and I really need this boat to bleed out really quickly in the event that happens. So I'm pretty happy about here. This is the electric stove. Nothing to see in there because it's not attached. And again, with this thing being, you know, a little low here, we're gonna have to actually take all the rivets and raise this up. So it's higher. That way when we flip it, it won't bind against this. That's the only thing where I don't know what happened there, but I didn't account for it. You can tell where the frame kind of just goes like this. You can see it. Only because I showed you, but really you can see where we have significantly less room here than we have here. We might turn that into a win somehow by making that into something cool. I have some ideas, but for right now, you know, it's working. It's working. All right, guys, thank you. That's a wrap. Let me know what you think about the truck. I really appreciate your feedback. You guys have never done me wrong before, so let me know which one I should get. Also, check out our merch store. We got really cool stuff like this hat. I really dig this hat, and this hat, this one in the store. It's my personal favorite. And you know what? If your deck is small though, you're not allowed to get it. I'll see you guys later.